Do you know what would happen if I suddenly decided to stop going into work? A business big enough that it could be listed on the NASDAQ goes belly up. Disappears. It ceases to exist without me. No, you clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
Usually the best stories always just have a simple idea behind them. You know, it can be the hero's journey, the story of an underdog, or the rise and fall of a man. Breaking Bad gives us one of the strongest versions of this idea, and that is an ordinary man who gets forced by life into a world of darkness. At least that's what it seems like in the start. We all think we know the story of Breaking Bad, right? Well, on the surface level, it's just a story of a high school teacher who gets diagnosed with cancer and then has to do whatever he can to provide for his family. This results in him cooking meth and entering the drug world. And then step by step, season by season, he gets pushed further into this world till it transforms him into this ruthless drug kingpin who doesn't really care about anything other than power and money.
Where's the rest? The money, Skylar. Where is the rest? Skylar, where is the money?
So I said surface level because that's the story we've been sold. But here's the thing, what if it's not true? What if Walter White never really changed? And what if this whole show isn't really about a transformation, but rather it's just revealing the kind of person that he always was? The genius of Breaking Bad is that it wants us to believe that it's a story of the rise and fall of a man who was pushed to his limits, who was forced to adapt, had to do whatever he can to survive. That kind of arc, it's easy to root for. It makes us say, well, he's not really bad, he's just in bad circumstances. But if you look a little bit deeper, if you peel back the layers, you'll be able to see the cracks. Walter doesn't really transform into anything new. It's just that in the later seasons, his mask gets pulled away. Part of the reason why people cling to the fact that Breaking Bad is a story about transformation is also because of the way that the show was framed and when it was shot. If you really think back on it, the early 2000s had a very different TV landscape to what is now. There weren't really any shows like Breaking Bad at that time. Of course, we did have shows like The Wire and The Sopranos that showed the crime drama genre in its true extent, but they were never really shows about good people turning bad. They were all about mob bosses or about the crime that happens day to day. Apart from this, we had sitcoms. You know, people with their quirky family and group of friends who are just doing comedic bits. You never really had any kind of show like Breaking Bad which had this long drawn transformation. So when Breaking Bad came along and said that we're gonna take this nice, sweet, humble guy and turn him into Scarface, slowly, step by step, season by season, it really felt novel. And the director, the writers and all the actors, they all leaned into that idea. They really carefully built it as a slow burner, showing Walter going from cooking in his underwear to running an entire drug empire. And it was easy to buy into this narrative. Well, because the format was new. But here's the twist. Just because the show was marketed as a transformation, that doesn't really mean a transformation actually happened. What it really did was it drip-fed us the unveiling, making it look like a transformation, when in reality, it was just the mask that was slipping away. Walt was never really a good guy. He was always just a bad guy pretending to be one.
What up? You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man. If you'd done your job, known your place, we'd all be fine right now.
Okay, but let's back up a little. What is this mask we've been talking about? Well, psychologists have this thing that's called the social mask. It's basically the version of ourselves that we present to the world. It's your best side, the most safe and the easiest to like. It's there to basically protect us from our true selves, to hide what we don't want to show people. And for Walter, well, his mask was this nice, sweet, well-mannered teacher, the family man. But underneath, there was pride, there was resentment, there was unfulfillment, and there was the hunger to be someone known. So when the cancer diagnosis came, it didn't really change him. It just gave him permission. The permission to stop pretending. He said, well, you know what, I'm dying anyways, so why do I need to hide anymore? And that is the moment that Heisenberg shows up. So it's not really a creation, but it's rather just a reveal. And you can actually see this right from the start. Think about it. Well, he had an easy way out. His wealthy friends, Gretchen and Elliot, they offered him a job that would really help him pay for his cancer treatment. But he turns them down for no reason other than his own pride. His bruised ego wouldn't let him take it because he'd rather die than let someone else felt like they have helped him, or let someone else felt like they actually saved him, especially the people who he believes should be beneath him. Or you can see this whenever Hank teases him or when Skylar talks down on him. Walter really can't swallow being looked down on, and he's done acting like the good guy anymore. You can see it in his eyes. You can see the anger building up. The moments when Walter Jr., his son, looks up to Hank as a role model rather than Walter, you can see that it really kills him from the inside, because he's not just this nice, sweet guy, and he's really itching to show the world who he truly is. Back in season 1, he takes Walter Jr. to buy some jeans. He goes and beats up a guy who was making fun of Walter Jr. as well. That wasn't really him being a nice parent, or it wasn't the cancer talking. It was just Walter finally being able to let loose. Even the way he talks to Jesse, it's not really mentorship or friendship, it's just control. It's Walter just reminding Jesse who the actual important person is. He keeps reminding him that he doesn't really need his support. He's just there as his supplier or his gateway into the drug empire. So this so-called turning point, that's not really when Walter changes. It's just that it's the moment he stops hiding. That's why he rejects help. He insists on making his own money. It's because it's never really about his family. It's always been about his ego, his name, and his need to show the world that he really is someone. In the later seasons, as the mask slips away further, the real Walter is terrifying. Especially in one of the most chilling scenes of the entire show, when he just lets Jane die. Just standing there while she chokes on her own vomit. All he had to do was flip her over. But he didn't, because he knew. He knew that she threatened his control over Jesse. And well, he couldn't be having that. Even later, poisoning Brock? Come on. That's not a line that you cross by accident. It's not something a nice person would ever even think of doing. It's a line you cross because deep down you've already decided the fact that things that you want are way more important than anyone else's lives. You can see how he becomes so nonchalant about murdering people. These aren't the actions of a man who's slowly turning evil. They're the choices of someone who was always a villain, but just finally got the stage to act upon it. And that's the uncomfortable brilliance of Breaking Bad and Walter as a character. You know, we always like to think that everyone is a good person and it's just people having a bad day, and that people would usually always do the good thing unless there's a circumstance that forces us to do something bad. That deep down, we're all decent and nice people. And Walter, he flips that. You know, maybe some of us are just bad, and we're just pretending to be good. And maybe all that it takes is the right excuse or the right pressure for the mask to slip. And at the very end of the show, Walter admits this himself. He says, I did it for me. I liked it. And that's the real story of Breaking Bad. It's not really about this rise and fall of a hero who turned villain, but rather it's the unveiling of a villain who was always there. And that slow burn, that multiple season arc that he went through, that's how they fooled you. It's because they didn't shove the transformation in your face. It wasn't like first season he's good, second season he's bad. They let it creep in over multiple seasons. And that's why people bought into this idea that Walter was actually a good man gone bad. But this leaves you thinking, you know, not about what you would do if you were in Walt's shoes, but rather, what is the trigger that could make your mask slip?